Welcome. You have found the show we call Real Men Don't Cry, or Do They? This is a podcast for men. And on this show, we will hear real-life stories from men about how they have navigated the complexities of being a man in this modern day. We are going to look at the boys don't cry way of thinking and how that has influenced them and how they have risen above societal pressures to be true to themselves. The focus of this show is men's real-world experiences, not just ideas and theories. I hope that you will learn from what they have discovered and use it in your life as well. Let's get into today's show. Hey, this is Brandon Archer, and this is Real Men Don't Cry, or Do They? I have a ton of respect for my guest today. I want to talk about how we met, because that's a pretty cool story. I want to talk about how we've stayed connected. And I want to hear about him. I want to hear his journey as a man and the challenges that he's come up against. So welcome, Mitch. Totally stoked to have you here, man.
Yeah. Cheers, brother. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for taking me up on this offer. Why don't we just start with like who you are, where you are?
Where I am physically?
In the world. Yeah.
Cool, because that could be a bigger question.
We could go there too.
Yeah. So I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia right now. It's a decent fall day at the moment. I'm a school teacher. I teach grade 6 French immersion. Doing my master's in counseling right now, which is trying to balance the school and the master's in counseling, and we're teaching some kettlebells as well, taking a little break from that for a little bit. Got some physical stuff going on, but life is busy, man. Very busy, but I'm super stoked, super happy with where I am right now. Externally, things are going extremely well. Internally, things are going well.
Cool, man. Well, we can get into that. I've always respected like how much you do, how much you accomplish. Like I remember when you started taking the kettlebell training and you were working full time, and I'm like, man, this guy does not mess around. Like he just goes and gets it. And then like, it's been a while. I think you started your master's after we kind of didn't see each other weekly because we were in a men's group together, but
that's right.
I've always respected that. Is that like your go-to? Is that just how you've always operated?
Not quite, man. That's been a new development in some sense, but it's kind of like I get a lot of compliments for that, right? And that's what I like. That's what my ego likes. That's like my identity, right? So there's a lot of shadow there as well, which has been. I've been digging into that a lot lately, but just the productivity, right? The productivity. A lot of my sense of worth is based upon it. We're just getting straight into like the shadow stuff right now, but that's what it is, man. It's like the productivity piece is highly tied to self-worth and that external praise. So I guess I'm speaking on it in a bit of a negative, shadowy sense at the moment, but at the same time, there's a lot of beauty to that. Like I think it's very admirable to be, working full time as a school teacher, and then to be taking my master's on the side, something that I'm extremely passionate about, and that's been a long-term goal of mine. And then pursuing the kettlebell training on the side and the kettlebell teaching, and these are all personal passions that are mine that are like engaging me physically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, to a certain extent. So I appreciate that, man. Like I do think that it's an admirable trait, an admirable quality, but at the same time, I got to be careful, because like I'm someone who already functions at a very stimulated nervous system, arguably dysregulated to a certain extent. So there's been ramifications, and there's been some effects from taking on all of this in my life.
Yeah. Man, thanks for sharing so much. And there was so much in what you shared. And maybe we'll,
Yeah, right.
yeah, so much. And I'd like to circle back around to a bunch of them. But why don't we, not every guest that's on this show I'm going to have a personal connection with, but let's just share with people like how we met,
Yeah.
which was in a men's group that I was running. But I'm curious because I probably have asked you this before, but I've forgotten, like, what brought you to that men's group?
Dude, that's timely, like very timely right now, actually. For someone who's coming over, said I had someone coming over for dinner tonight. This is exactly the person actually who got me into men's work.
Wow.
I live with this fella. Um, he's actually still with ARCA. I believe he may be a lieutenant at the
Mm.
time when we were both in it, Samurai Brotherhood, and we lived with each other for a year, and because we had both done a teaching degree together. He's actually a school counselor as well. I don't need to share any more about him. He's a beauty though, and lived together for a year. We were kind of tight, but not super tight. And then I don't know what happened. I've been going through my own stuff, digging into my own material. He had a lot of stuff come to surface that made him start digging deep into his psyche, into his wounds, into his patterns, and I don't even know how it came about, man. I think we were just hanging out. He's like, dude, I think you would really like this men's work thing that I'm doing. I'm like, men's work. My first reaction is just like, that is lame as shit, man. It's like, really? But at the same time, I'm trying to keep an open mind. Like, no, that actually does sound kind of cool. Like, I get it. Like, a bunch of guys getting together, but I just got like these judgments popping up, right? But I look into it because like I'm needing it and I'm looking for something. Like I don't really have any men in my circle. Like I have lots of friends that I love and trust dearly, but none that I can get super vulnerable and real with. And something I was yearning for deep down, just crying for it. And he talked to me about it, and I looked into Samurai Brotherhood, and then I reached out in an email, and then I get an email from you, I think, or they set me up with
Yeah.
you and be like, "Hey, do you want to have a first interview with Brandon Archer?" I guess, and then I'm like, okay, man, I still got judgment. I'm just like, man, like I've been doing the work for years. I've been reading my books. I've been meditating. I've been on this path. I was just like, these guys, you know, I'll give it a go, but I'm going to be up here and these guys are going to
Yeah.
be like down here. Right. I swear, like, oh, it's just cringy to even say that, man, but that's the reality of it. And then, I had that first chat and, I felt real connected and like, I don't know, there was just like no bullshit to our first meeting either.
Mm.
To that pre-interview or whatever you want to call it. Um, you know, I think I was looking for some kind of like, I don't know. You just didn't, you weren't trying to like suss me out or figure out like how much work I had done. And I wanted you to know that like, I'm at this level, I've done this much work, I've had this many insights and I've learned this much about myself. You're just like, this is what it is, man. You could benefit from it without a doubt. I know you will. I know you'll love it. And I'm just like, I was sold by the end of it. I don't even remember what we talked about, but I was just like, all right, this is definitely something that I need right now. And I went to that first meeting with a fascinating motley crew of dudes. And yeah, all the initial judgments I had, kind of went out the window. I was just like, oh my God, no, this dude's actually like, but then I start comparing it. I'm just like, oh shit, this guy's actually like above me in this area. And I'm like, oh, this one's actually below me. Okay, this one we're on the same page. And just like that whole comparison thing, man, that's the story of my life. Like every time I walk into a goddamn room.
Yeah.
But it's a work in progress, no doubt. So anyway, that fellow, like we've gotten super tight, like tighter over the years, and I love him to death. And he's actually coming over for dinner this evening.
That's
So
awesome.
that's actually wow. That's pretty neat synchronicity.
Isn't
I
it?
would say. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Synchronicity. Now you guys have something to talk about tonight. Not that you didn't
Oh yeah.
anyway, but
Oh yeah. We got
so
times to catch up on.
I find it really fascinating the resistance you had to trying it. Do you think what you've seen since then, do you think that's like par for the course for men?
What do you mean? What I've seen like
Like,
within the men's work?
men's work, guys you work with, guys you know socially, like, are they resistant to get help or try something?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. It's yeah, without a
So
doubt.
why do you think that is?
Mm.
Or
Oh,
why were you
geez.
resistant? Because why were you resistant?
It's the conditioning, I suppose, and just the idea of like giving up my power and admitting that I don't have control, admitting that I don't have it figured out, admitting that I could actually benefit from,
Hmm.
opening up and being in like showing my true self to others. Um, yeah, that's a tough one, man. And it's so incredibly rampant. And I guess I kind of live in like an echo chamber of this stuff, right? Like, and the people that I interact, have like a bit of a different circle. I still got all my old pals and stuff, but I got a bit of a different circle now. People that are open, people that are honest, people that are authentic, men that are open and authentic, and that's kind of just what I've been attracting these days. And then on my social medias and all of that, like it's all. So I have this idea, this echo chamber that all the men are doing the work, like we're all doing it, like large scale collective change is occurring right now.
No,
And I mean, of course, you can say it is,
one
but then
percent, 1%
right,
of men are working on this, man.
yeah, then I step outside exactly. I step outside those circles. So I'm just like, oh wait, never mind. It's yeah, most dudes that haven't even touched this stuff, haven't even looked at it. But I think a lot of it just comes down to I don't want to I don't want to say a lot of it, but it's the eldership, man. It's the male role models. It's the
Ooh,
mentors
yeah, man.
in their lives. I think that's number one without a doubt because I didn't have it,
Yeah.
and most men they don't have it. They grow up without it, and just by pure chance and just a fortunate series of events and traumas and all this that yeah, I discovered it for myself. But Uh,
Yeah,
but of course,
that's
I can't say
awesome.
for myself because it's people who have been put in front of me and in my path. But I'd say that, man, the elders and the mentors and the
So you
models.
mentioned control, like it was like giving up. The idea you had was giving up control and your personal power. Do you still feel that's the case?
In certain circles, where my competition mentality comes online, my othering mentality, my kind of judgment and hierarchical structuring that I've
Yeah.
been chatting about. Um, so when I'm in, and that's what I've been loving about some of these new communities and people I've been spending time with. It's like conscious, intentional, and classless community. This like intentional, classless community has been something that I came across like last year, and it's just been replaying in my head, man.
Mm,
The intentional piece. So you're intentionally seeking out others to develop community with, and you're seeking out like-minded people, but also this classless. Going out and spending time with this group of people where one's a yoga instructor, the other's a medical doctor, the other one's a clerk, the other one is just a nomad, and another one's a chef, and there's a ton of therapists, obviously, and yeah, just like this crew of people. And I walk in there, and like immediately, whenever I walk into a new environment, especially with strangers, I just want to start comparing myself,
yeah.
and to walk in there and to have that permission in one sense it's permission, but also nobody gives a shit about me and what I like, all my accolades and stuff. They want to see me. They want to see me and my
Yes.
authentic self. And they couldn't care less about what I've accomplished. So the whole idea of these external accomplishments and accolades just dissipates immediately, and it is the most refreshing thing, man. To like, it's like I'm like, oh my god, so I don't have to tell them all about everything I've accomplished. I don't have to do this. I don't have to act a certain way or make sure that they know this about me. I just show up as myself, and I'm loved and accepted that way. And that's this conscious, intentional, classless community that I've gotten some tastes of this past year that has really shown me like that's the way. that's the way.
It is the way. I've never heard it put that way, but I like it. I like it because
Yeah,
like society has conditioned us to be like, you are what you do. It's not enough to be just Brandon. It's not enough to be just Mitch. It's not enough to just be a good man. You have to like buy the house, get the career, do the things. And it's all not good for your soul at all.
yeah. It's not, man. It's not. It's just that it's just the rat race or the hedonic treadmill or whatever other kind of metaphor you want to use. Like it's amazing. It's
One
amazing.
thing,
Like what we're.
you use the word intention, and that's really for me come to the fore about just being intentional with everything I do, intentional with my life, intentional with my intents, and it is a game changer. It's a game changer because I realized what I was doing, and I see a lot of men doing. We're just going through the motions. Like we really don't know what the heck's going on or what we want. And it's really hard to be intentional when you don't know what you want.
Oh, big time. Big time. Yeah. It feels like, and I'm still getting caught up in that right now, man. Like I'm still getting caught up in it like the past few weeks. I'm grinding at work and I'm grinding with this course and all these projects and assignments that I'm trying to get done. And also, trying to prioritize all my health factors like sleep and diet
Yeah.
and nutrition. But a lot of it's going by the wayside because I just feel like I'm grinding. I'm just going through the motions. I'm just going through the motions, and it's a very, and it takes me out of myself. It takes me out of my essence. Like it takes me out of my connection to any kind of I don't know, higher sense of purpose and being.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart, man. It breaks my heart when I'm going to sleep that night and I'm just like, dude, you haven't stopped all day. I think I've essentially been functioning at like, I would say more dissociated than anything. Like I look back on
Yeah.
the day, I'm just like, fuck, like I don't think I was present for one moment. Like there was moments throughout the day where I'm just like, I'm stopping for a second, I'm taking a deep breath, but for the most part, I'm like, geez, man, like I was walking around dissociated. And like I shouldn't be using that term so loosely, but to an extent, that's how a lot of us are going through, like just in this
Totally.
non-present, focusing on what do we gotta do next, what do we gotta do next. I'm running from this place, running from this place, to next, to next, to next, to next, and it's just, oof. And the
Well, and I
days
think
pass, and the weeks pass.
most guys listening can be like, yep, that's my everyday. And I know for me, like, a lot of my story, like that's the way I live life up until I had a heart attack. And then I'm like, no way, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't know what I need to do next, but I'm not doing this anymore. But what I will say, we're not taught that there's another way of being, of existing. We're just like conditioned to like head down, go. And I see a lot of guys get to a point like I'm older than you and they start to crack because they've, spent decades living that way. And they're like, I'm unsatisfied with life. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know why I'm here. And it's like, it's rough. It's super rough place to be.
It is, man. It absolutely is. And you have to take it, and you come back to attention. You got to be intentional about how much you're taking on, like, because we're trying to balance this act between like growth. Like, we want to grow, you want to grow, I want to grow. We got places we want to go. But at the same time, patience, man. We got to take our time. We got to take our time because, like, we're going to crash and burn. And yeah, like you with your heart attack. I think I was thinking about you the other day. Some guy was talking about some 40-something-year-old fella had a heart attack, super fit and healthy. And then it made me think of you. I'm like, man, none of us are immune to this if we do not look
No.
after our energy and our bodies and our minds. It's incredible. But it also, it comes down to a place of privilege as well. Like if you have the privilege to rest, that's incredible. And I do, and I'm going to, like, right now, I don't really have, because like I have to work. I have to work, but I do have to work and I have to, do my master's. I got to finish up my master's. And I know afterwards, when I'm just focusing on my master's, I can prioritize myself more. So I know that I do have pauses, I do have reprieves, and I will have them in the future as well. But so many people, man, like so many people do not, which
Yeah.
which is heartbreaking. And of course, we want to hold them accountable, and we want to be like, no, just slow down, just give this up, give that. They're like, I got a family, man. Like, I got a family.
Yes.
Everything's expensive as hell. I can't just rest. So get out of here with your, new age, yada yada rest, because like it's it's not that easy. We would all love to have those privileges.
Yeah, I love that you brought this up because I've been thinking a lot about this because I intentionally made space after my heart attack. I changed my life. I'm like, I'm figuring this out. I can't do this. I'm going to die. Like, I'm literally going to die. And I've been thinking a lot lately. And a lot of the guys I work with they have families, they have like little kids. It's like, oh man, I get that they can't do it the way I did it, but what can they do to bring like some intention and some rest to their day? Because they're busy. Like, look at how busy you are. Imagine factoring in 3 kids to that.
I don't know, man. I'd crumble to pieces. I'm sure I'd figure it out, but like, I don't know.
But that's the reality. A lot of guys, right, in their early 40s or late 30s, they're like, okay, like we bought the house, we had the kids, I've got the career, and whoa, life's insane. And is that the way it's supposed to be? We're conditioned to think that's the way it's supposed to be. So
Yeah.
I do think there's ways in 15 minutes a day guys can like do a practice to at least more. I was going to say keep afloat. I think you can do more than keep afloat. It's just, how do you do that?
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Yeah. But we're also, because we're functioning at this fast paced level, this highly stimulated level, it's like that's what we're conditioned to do. We kind of get addicted to the stress, right? Like, getting addicted to stress it's a
Fully
real thing.
agree.
Like, it is
It is a
absolutely a real
real
thing.
thing.
Like I'm addicted to it too. Not that we like it, not that we respond positively to it, but that's what makes us feel safe, right? We
Yes.
feel safe because we have things under control while we're juggling all these balls and doing things. So like, once we slow down a bit, our body, if we're not used to it, our body starts telling us, like, oh shit, like, this isn't good. This isn't, like, I'm not safe. I'm supposed to be controlling and like doing all these things right now. So I gotta get more stress. I gotta get back into the stress state, back into the stress environment. So it's almost like we'll bring that reality into existence for ourselves. And then when we finally get a chance to slow down, we're just trying to fill that time, right? Because you said
Yeah.
15 minutes. Like, we can find more than like all of us with our scrolling on the Instagram or our messages or Facebook. Like, if I stop, like, I stop at a red light, I'm just like, vroom, right down to my phone. I'm just like, dude, for
Yeah.
real? Like, it's a 20-second red light. Use these 20 seconds to breathe. And like,
Totally.
like, how many of those moments do we have throughout the day? At least 15 minutes. No doubt we have at least 15 minutes where we can be prioritizing ourselves and our breath and our relax and rest and parasympathetic nervous system activation and all that. So
Yeah, I do think it's
yeah.
possible. I absolutely do. Oh, you said something about stimulation, and that's a thing we don't think about very often. Like, look at the last 30 years, 40 years. The stimulation of human beings has gone through the roof, meaning screens, meaning all this input. And we don't ever think about how that's affecting us. We just don't, just like, oh, this is just the world. Yeah, this is just the world. But is that good for human beings? Is that good for men? Is that good for women? Is that good for families? I'm just going to straight out say, no, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
No,
crushing us.
there's no way, man. And like, I see a lot of this firsthand as a teacher, right? Like, because these kids younger and younger have these little computers in their hands
Mm,
at all time. And mine are grade 6, so I got like grade 11 and 12-year-olds. Most of them
yeah.
have phones. Like, they're not touching. Like, there's no phones allowed in class. But once they get to the next grade, teachers pretty much start allowing it. But the ADHD and ADD is huge, right? And there's so many different like theories and beliefs and opinions around this.
Yes.
I get into it a bit, but always just from a very compassionate standpoint. But, there's I remember like, most people just say that now it's getting identified more. Be like, the people say like, oh, everyone's got ADHD. I'm like, no, we're just identifying it more. We have more resources. We have more accurate assessments. We have more knowledge readily available to educate ourselves. So it's just being, recognized more. And I don't buy it, man. I don't buy it at all. Not for a second. Because if you think for a second that these devices and this constant stimulation isn't exacerbating, I'm not saying it's causing ADHD, but if you don't think it's exacerbating the symptoms, I don't even know what to say to you. Because we've got these kids, like I definitely have ADHD. I definitely have, undiagnosed ADHD, and that's just a term, and there's 100 different types of ADHD and ADD that exist out there. But of course, I would fit the criteria for diagnostic ADHD. But you got these, and like, especially with the, like, we're going on to like TikTok now and the reels, right? Like when I'm teaching my lessons now, I got a ton of kids, diagnosed with ADHD, and it's all throughout the school, and the percentages are going up and up, up and up and up. But we have things like the TikTok videos, like when I'm trying to give, which are like, 10, 15 seconds long. I don't know how long they are, but 10 to 15 seconds. And then, they're on to the next one, zoom. They're on to the next one, zoom. And like even me on my phone, on my Instagram, I'll be zooming through. If I see a video that's like 30 seconds long, I'm just like, too long. So now when I'm trying to teach my lessons, like a 5-minute lesson that would typically have taken me 5 minutes in my classroom, it's taking me like 15 minutes, man, because I got the kids for about 5 seconds and then they're gone. And I'm just like, guys, come on back. And then they're back for a couple of seconds and they're gone again. And I don't want to sound like the old guy saying like back in my day, because Lord knows I'm affected by this too. But if you don't think these short TikToks and these other reels and all this, like multiple devices flashing and dinging, it's like not having an effect at, exacerbating. I don't know if it's causing ADHD. These are all like natural psychological tendencies, but whatever's being, pulled out.
I agree with you. Like my kids are 20 and 18 now, and they grew up with devices. Basically, I didn't grow up with devices. And even like the kids in your class, they don't know a time without a device. Like at 2 years old, they were probably given a kid's version of an iPad or something to watch movies, or 3 or 4. Yeah. So, I know for a fact that there's probably research out there now on how it affects us and kids. I'm sure there is, but it's not mainstream because Apple needs to sell the next iPhone. Like, right. We've created this societal machine of a financial model. How are you going to stop that? I don't know what the answer is, but I know, I got rid of TikTok and Facebook, and I only use Instagram to share what I teach, because I couldn't focus. It was crazy, because I realized I'm actually literally addicted to this. And people, I think when they hear addiction, I think drugs and alcohol. It's like, yes, but look at what addiction actually is. And when you're looking at this thing, your device, and you are creating chemicals in your brain, your body gets used to that and you get addicted to it. Like, that's just science. I'm not making that up. That's real. So
absolutely.
we're all addicted to these things. Like you even said, you stop at a light and you go for your crack, but your crack is now your phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's white collar crack, right? Like it's acceptable.
Yeah, exactly. It's acceptable. It's normal. It's the way of the world, it's just the way things are these days.
Yeah.
But that's it's such a good point, man. Like the strength of this, and there's so many people, like there are ways that people can develop healthy relationships with their apps and with their phones. There's no doubt about it. Some people more than others. Many of us, like myself, addictive tendencies. So I don't know, do you want to play the game of like trying your hardest and doing all the internal work you possibly can to develop a healthy relationship with these online social media platforms? Or do you just not want to play that game and put your energy elsewhere? And I think that's where I want to be right now, because there's like, I want to give up the fight of trying to say I can beat this or I'm better than this. Like it's so primitive and it's so biological and physiological and so ingrained that like to think that you can overcome it, I think is a bit of a fallacy.
Yeah. So what do you think? I love this conversation. It's not going the way I thought it would, but that's totally cool because there's so much value here.
Yeah.
Your experience as a man, like, and showing up in the world the way you desire to. What do you see as the biggest block to that?
I mean, it's pretty tangible right now because it's been showing up in the last 2 weeks. It's just it's the dysregulation, man. And like lately it's been the anger, to be honest.
Mm.
It's been the anger lately. It's my emotional control. It's my ability to show up when my emotions get really triggered and when I get really triggered. And my inability to kind of move that energy and to alchemize it. The emotional reactivity. I
So
think that's the
what were
biggest
you?
one when I'm looking at.
Yeah, man, I couldn't ask for a better answer. What were you taught about men and emotions as a boy growing up and having emotions? What were you taught about them?
So I have some trouble recalling childhood. I don't have a lot of childhood memories. And I don't think that they're repressed, like traumatic memories. I think I was just so overstimulated and kind of dissociated when I was in my younger years that I never encoded my memories in the first place. So they're just not there. But what I can say, I guess from the number one male role model in my life, who I, love dearly, it was all about numbing. It was about numbing and bottling it up. Bottle it up, numb yourself. And then once you get sufficiently triggered, you can let it explode onto everything and everyone around you. So I would say that's been a big one that I've learned and that I've also been demonstrating.
So would you say that like that explosion, that anger, that yelling, whatever that looked like was normalized?
I wouldn't say it was normalized. It was the only way it was. And it wasn't there. I never saw any other way. I think we all knew that it was wrong and it was unhealthy, but I didn't have the language for it at the time. I didn't know any different.
Yeah. So do you see yourself doing the same thing?
Yeah. Lately it's actually been interesting. Like I feel like it's unfortunate because I want to think of everything as linear, right? Like here's Mitchell on his healing path. He's getting stronger psychologically, emotionally. He's getting more control of his nervous system and more understanding of his shadows and his depths and his triggers and his anger as well, right? I think it reminds me of this. When my parents first sent me to anger management, I was fascinated when I was 19 years old, but that's before I knew, I don't know if I want to go into that, but that was, my parents sent me there to go to anger management when I was younger, before I knew, like both my parents were alcoholics growing up. And then the psychologist, like, first or second session was just like, dude, you just told me that your parents were alcoholics growing up. Like, that is why you got all this anger, right? And my God, I'm like, no way. I was like, no, that's not right. This is normal. What do you mean there's nothing weird or abnormal about my childhood? That's just, that's just how parents are. And then, that opened up a whole, that opened up a whole other box that changed the trajectory of my life. And, what was your initial question about the anger?
I don't remember, but that was great. Thanks for sharing that. Just what it was normalized, and what you, if it was normalized as a kid, and if you see yourself repeating it, which you answered.
Yeah, well, I guess I can just yeah, continue on that because that was the path I was going down. Um, yeah, I think that it was whole the linear projection and that not, and now I'm noticing the anger is like the past 2 months. There's been like more anger than I've had in probably years, dude. So I'm like, what is going on? Like, are you for real? Like,
mm,
and like, of course, it's not linear. You can say it's cyclical. It's up and down, whatever. It doesn't have to be directional. But it's worrisome because I'm like, what is going on, man? Like, how is this? Like, how is this happening? All this work I've done. Like, are you kidding me? Look at me, like all these, childish and immature and non-masculine kind of traits are coming about again. But also, I think it's coming down to like things like, giving up. Like my meditation practice has not been solid the past few months. I've been dealing with a ton of physical pain over the past 7 months. I had to stop teaching kettlebells for a bit. And I've got all this other stuff going on. And I think it's building up a lot of anger and resentment. I'm not working out a lot, so I'm not having an outlet for all this energy. And now when it builds up, my lack of outlets for that,
yeah.
I think are having a significant effect on how it's kind of exploding in the moment. So yeah, that's kind of
Do
that was the
you think, or
end of
did
that
that
thought.
psychologist ever link anger to fear?
Anger to fear. Yeah, I'm sure we might have gone down that path, but not that I recall, man. No.
Yeah. Just because I mean, my experience with anger personally, and a lot of the guys I work with, is for me, it's always been rooted in fear of not being loved, of not having control of the situation, and just manifested as anger.
Sure. Whew. Yeah, man. I don't think we spent much time in the anger with that psychologist because my parents sent me there to be like, you got to get some help, you got to fix your anger. Then he goes
Yeah.
there and he's just like, dude, are you great? And then I go and I tell him, like, my parents, I'm just like, yo, this guy tells me that you guys are the cause for this. And they start calling him the psychologist. You're like, I can't believe what you're telling my son. He's like, yo, man, I'm just a psychologist, all right? Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
So, but then that's when that opened their eyes, that opened my eyes. So we didn't actually spend much time on the anger. We had a life's worth of intense material to begin unpacking.
Yeah.
So
Fair
yeah,
enough.
the
Fair
anger
enough.
was what got me through the door, and then the rest of it just went another direction.
But I think a lot of guys listening are going to relate to the anger, like how you're relating it happening to you real time today.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you're, I know for me too, if I'm not getting my heart rate up, oh, man, I can like not working out. It's only a couple weeks before I start feeling the anxiety come up. So not necessarily anger, but for me, it's anxiety. I'm like, oh, why am I feeling this? And the science is like getting your heart rate up is a really great way to deal with a lot of this anxiety, or for you, maybe anger. But what I've also seen is guys go to the extreme and for me, when I had my heart attack, I was training like 15 hours a week. Well, that was
Right.
15 hours a week of me avoiding my shit. That was me
Yeah.
getting my heart rate up and like, oh, I feel great. I don't need to deal with anything. And then when that got taken away, I'm like, oh shit, here we go. So I kind of hear some similarities in you, with your injury and you can't work out. It's like, oh, god damn, that like outlet's not there
Yeah.
now. Now what do I do?
Yeah. I mean, what you just said resonated on both those with both ends of the spectrum for sure. Because my MO was that as well. Like at my gym where I do my kettlebells, I'm doing like gnarly hit workouts like 4 or 5 days a week. And, last year I had one of the scariest couple months of my life. I guess we probably haven't spoken since then. It was around like December, January. It was like 2 months last year. I was working full time, doing my master's, teaching kettlebells, and just crushing my like I was like just doing my hit workouts, heart rate's going at 170, 180. And that was, I guess, it did serve me the same way it serves you. It did serve me
Yeah,
to a certain
totally.
extent to offload some of that energy. But then the wheels fell off, man, in December. It was the scariest, I think, 6 weeks of my life. I started experiencing this like depersonalization, derealization, where my entire like psyche and perception would kind of crumble to pieces. Like my thoughts and my sense of self would kind of crumble. And it's kind of like having a bad trip on, like, if you like bad trip on psychedelics or on marijuana or something, but I was sober and it would last for hours and hours and I would feel it happen. I could talk about that for days because it was terrifying. And thankfully I gained some insight and got connected with this energy person and kind of reintegrated myself. But holy moly, that was no doubt a result of everything I'm taking on, and not to mention the constant stimulation at the gym. And now I'm at the other end of the spectrum where I'm not working out at all. I'm not offloading any of this energy. So now I feel like that's kind of realized I was actually talking with the men, because I still meet with our men.
Same guys.
Regularly.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Same guys.
We should probably tell people
Man.
about that after you finish your story.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's all I want to say, really. It's just like both ends of the spectrum. Now I think I'm on the other end where I'm like, now I got nothing. Now all this is building up inside me and I've got no outlet for it. And I guess when I get triggered, like, it's already right there, just bubbling below the surface. So all it takes is just a little trigger. Whereas before, the threshold was a lot higher. I could get up there and like I would still maybe have an explosive experience, but it would be very rare. And it would have to be pretty serious circumstances. And now, fuck, man, it hardly takes anything, which is unfortunate. And,
I bet you every man listening to this can be like, oh, damn, I go through that same thing. I can almost guarantee you, because if we are, athletically inclined and we have an outlet, it's awesome. It's just awesome. Like it recharges you, it makes you feel good. But you take that away, woo. Ooh, man, it can be gnarly what happens on the other side of that. And all I hear in your story, and then looking back on mine, it's balance. It's like, yes, do those things, and can't avoid your like you keep referring to it as shadow. You can't avoid your wounds. You can't avoid the triggers that can take you to that state, because in that trigger is your actual growth.
Yeah.
Like whatever your trigger might be. So for me, it's like relationships to women. Holy shit, man. I'm so like, I got it. I understand what's going on internally now. And even in a healthy interaction with a woman, I can get triggered. I can be like, what the fuck? Why am I like feeling angry right now? Or why am I feeling resentful? Or why am I feeling this? She hasn't done a goddamn thing. So that's one of my biggest triggers, right? And it's easy to like feel in control if I'm working out lots. Not so easy to feel in control if I'm not. So like for me, I'm digging into like, oh, why do I feel that way? Why am I reacting that way? Because the reaction is the reaction. It's a nervous system reaction. We don't need to go into that. I'll do a solo podcast explaining for people more on like what's going on internally, because it's real. It's very, very real.
Is it ever, man? Yeah. And and unfortunately it impacts the people around us. And like you talking about women, I've been learning a lot in this relationship, this beautiful relationship with my lovely partner. And thank God she's patient, and I've never had this opportunity to work on myself in real time with a partner before, like to be real about what's coming up right now, and then being able to voice. Like, it's still hard. I still don't do it. And every time I don't do it, it builds up, and then it just becomes something even bigger than it ever had to be. But being able to work on this stuff in real time, be like, this is what's coming up right now. And like a lot of the times it's childish, right? Like what's coming up in me is childish. This little hurt that's coming, like there's no rational reason for me to be hurt. And me expressing that, I have a lot of hesitancy to express that, because then I feel like less than a man. I feel like a baby. I feel like a child expressing this by telling her that I just got triggered by
Yeah.
the way that she like handed me something, or the way that she responded appropriately, but to just in a way that like triggered something and wasn't ideal for, you know, my child self to hear. So for me to voice that is very fucking hard, because as soon as those words come out of my mouth, because like I hear it coming up, but I'm just like, no, no, I don't want to know why I'm triggered. I don't want her to know why I'm triggered. But that's what I've been working on lately. And she invites it and she welcomes it. And I'm so, so very grateful. But my God, I still got to work on it more. But like to actually say, like, listen, what you just did, what you just said, like actually really, like really triggered me. And then like I'm feeling hurt right now. And I know that I shouldn't be. But that's what's happening. And, you know, and then for her to be like, okay, I appreciate you sharing that. And like, I still love you for it. And it gives me permission to have these experiences that are not masculine, so to speak, um, is a huge source of growth in my life right now.
Dude, I think that's one of the most masculine shares you've ever shared with me,
Cheers.
because the paradigms of like how men relate to emotions and if we share them is all complete bullshit. It's rooted in the past. It's rooted in getting distorted over the decades and generations of how we're supposed to relate to our emotions. And what you shared is the way we're supposed to deal with it, which is in our modern age. I'm gonna share this and then I want to circle back. The world is
Yep.
very fucking different. Men's roles are very fucking different today in relationships. And we are not fucking out there hunting, trapping to survive. In the time when we had to do that, you're damn straight. We didn't even have time to face our emotions. The world is easy. Food and shelter is fairly easy to come by in North America. So that role, that old paradigm is gone. Not gone. It's less. So now the new ask of the evolution of man and masculinity is like, oh, fuck, I am triggered by you. And instead of like burying it and yelling at you, we have the space to process this. So you just owned your feeling with her. You didn't say, you hurt me right now. You said, I feel hurt. That is masculine as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because now
Absolutely, man.
you don't put her in a mothering position. You don't be like, oh, I need you to take care of little boy Mitch right now. You're like, fuck, I got some shame about me even feeling this, and I'm just gonna tell you. And then I'm so happy to hear you've got a partner that can hold that for you. Like, she's not taking it on, she's not taking it personally, and that's rad, because it's not personal. You're having a reaction to what's going on, and that's fucking okay.
Yeah. I appreciate that, brother. And it just has me thinking, like, there are going to be a lot of women who aren't okay with that. And even Grace, you know, a lot of times I'm sure it doesn't sit well with her when I express what I just got triggered about. She might be like, oh, that's weird. Like, oh, I don't think that's healthy for my partner, for my boyfriend to be reacting in that way to something so simple that I did. But for her to sit with that experience and listen to my open communication, and like you said, not to look to her to be my mother. Like, listen, you don't got to take this on. I don't want you to heal me. I don't want you to tell me, oh, everything's going to be okay, don't worry, Mitchell. I just want you to witness me and be okay with the fact that I have these parts showing up right now that still need some fucking work. And it's
Yeah.
not a reflection on how masculine I am, it's just how human I am. And for her to be able to hold that, and a lot of people and a lot of women won't give, I feel like they won't give men that permission, not any fault of their own, but just the way that they are socialized as well. Because like a man is a masculine
Totally.
man who deals with his own shit, who handles his fucking emotions. So any man who's got some childish little reactions coming up, like that's not what I'm looking for in a man. So it's a challenging dance to play, right? Because you want to be that actualized, authentic, vulnerable man, but a lot of times you don't have the fucking permission to be that man. So,
Dude, you
yeah,
just
rock in a hard
like,
place.
oh, because women are socialized to expect certain things from men emotionally, just like we are. It's the same goddamn message. It's just from there. So you're right. There's some women that can hold it. There's some women that can't. It's simple. It's just like men that can't hold their women's emotional reactions. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And you nailed it. It's the humanness. We're fucking humans. It's goddamn 2023. The world is different. Everybody needs to grow up and realize that emotional maturity is the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
You can read as many goddamn books as you want, be as emotionally intelligent as you want.
Mm-hmm.
Not the goddamn same thing as emotional maturity, which she is showing and you are showing. And that is a healthy relationship. Doesn't mean you don't have problems. Doesn't mean you're not hurt. Doesn't mean she doesn't say shit that triggers you. That's okay. But goddamn, man, I'd love to hear you guys are navigating it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the only way, man. Like, it's the only way. Like, how
Yeah.
else? Like, every other relationship I've been in prior to this one, it's failed. And there's no wonder why it's failed. I bottle things up. I don't express my wants and needs. I don't treat them the way that they deserve to be treated. I don't respect their emotions and their reactions, their perceptions the way that they deserve. And yeah, it's man, it takes a lot of learning, trial and error, and also finding someone who's on that same path, right? Because like you said, there's a lot of women that aren't going to be open to it,
Yeah.
and just like there's a lot of men that aren't open to it. So it's
And
not
that's
easy.
just
It's
the
not
way
easy
that
out there,
looks.
man.
And, this podcast is about men's experiences and you're sharing that. But, primarily when I coach guys, it's about they come to me because their relationship is on the rocks. And we talk about this stuff, emotional regulation and maturity, because that's where it's at. Like, what do you really want out of your relationship? Well, we all want to feel fulfilled, great sex, all these things. It's there's so many moving parts to get to that point, and you got to figure out what you really want. Like, do you want the loop? Do you want, like, you probably did the same as me, you pick women that are emotionally dysregulated, because that's what I thought a relationship looked like. I thought it was supposed to feel like absolute fucking chaos all the goddamn time. Guess what? It doesn't have to.
No, no, surprise, surprise. It does not have to, man. And it is relieving. It is truly relieving. And yeah, and I feel so fortunate, man, to have found someone who I'm like, who sees me and that I'm able to
Yeah.
commit to, and just act like I've just gotten to a certain point in my, I don't know, growth and development where I'm finally ready to, and God knows she still needs a lot of patience to deal with a lot of my shit. But nonetheless, I've gotten to a point where, I can show up on a regular enough basis and be honest enough and authentic enough to, yeah, just become the partner that, yeah, I've always, I guess, wanted to be.
Yeah.
So,
The authentic.
but I
You've said
mean,
authentic a few times. What's your
I bet.
definition of authentic?
Oh man, I'm probably just railing that word, man. I love that word. That is, like, of all the words in the English language, it's for sure the one that resonates the most with me. I don't know why. I just don't think that there's anything more important than you showing up as your authentic self, being accepted as your authentic self, and to have a community and a society and a world of authentic individuals. Like, I just don't know if there's anything more important or anything that we need more than that. And authentic is just, and just being real and like not putting on a show for other people, not trying to be proper for some people and trying to be, nasty for others, and taking on these different identities. And I see it all the time. And amongst my students, and it kills me. But I mean, like, you know, they're kids, they're trying out different identities. I get it. I did it, still doing it probably. But yeah, it's just being real, and it's just a sense that you feel, man. Like you get a feeling from someone, like if they're being real, if they're being authentic or not. If they're coming from a place, if they're coming from a place of trying to get something from you or get a reaction from you or trying to people please you or what have you, or if they're just showing up as their real self. And yeah, I don't know. It's just there's nothing I love more in myself than my authenticity. I think that's
Yeah.
one of the greatest traits that I bring to the world. And there's nothing I love more in another human being than their authenticity. As soon as someone shows up as their authentic self to me, they could be so different from me. They could be so goofy. They could be so straight. They could be so serious. But if I sense that they're being authentic, like that's just an immediate connection, man. I'm just like, okay, tell me about yourself. What made you this person? I don't want to know like what made you be this other person, because I already know what made you be this other person. So some kind of external factors. I want to know like what made you this real authentic person that you are right now. Yeah.
That's
Great word, man.
fucking,
Great word.
dude, that's so beautiful. That share. Because the world would be different if we could all do that.
Whew. Yeah. Would it ever, man? Would it
But
ever?
here, I think the beautiful thing is, you being authentic. And I mean, that's why we have a connection, probably from that first call. I'm like, this guy's just fucking real. He's just
No
real.
doubt.
And that will do one of two things to people. It will inspire them to do the same, or it'll scare the shit out of them, because it is a little scary to be authentic sometimes. I'm not going to lie. It's like I've had a couple situations in the past few months. I'm like, oh god damn, I got to be vulnerable right now, and this might get me hurt, but it's what I got to do. It's what I got to do. So
Whew.
but that fear can't stop us from being authentic. It just can't. You can do it.
For
And like
sure.
finding other people that accept you for that authenticity you're right, it's huge. And I know for me, I was in a world where, I put on a face. A lot of those people from that time in my life aren't around anymore.
Yep. Makes
And
sense.
I think the lesson was like, if you don't, accept that you want to be authentic, you're going to keep attracting these same people. Once you make the decision, I'm going to be real to myself, I'm going to do this work, all of a sudden you find these people like you alluded to earlier, right? Like you've
That's
got this
right.
great
That's
group of
right.
people, this new community. That's not a fluke. That's not a fluke.
No, no, it's not. I look back on a lot of it, man. I'm just like, fuck, like this person's in my life, and then this other one. But like I only got this other one that I always like I want to be close to these people, but I only got it because I went through this other, you know, connection that I have and got there. So I was just like, wow, I'm so lucky that like of all the people around me, like these people fell into my lap. I'm like, no, man, it didn't fall into your lap. It was fucking intention. It's because you were seeking out these connections. You were seeking out this
Yes.
communication. You were putting this energy and this manifestation, whatever you want to call it, into the world. And like that's how it happened. The shit doesn't happen spontaneously and it doesn't happen overnight. So reminding myself of that and the role that I've played in this, I think is very valuable and something that I tend to forget quite often.
It's easy to forget. I am blown away by this conversation. I knew I wouldn't be disappointed, but I'm like, damn, this was amazing. I
Truly.
got I got two questions for you to end this off.
Let's hear it.
If you could say one thing to your child self that you wanted to hear from your mom or dad, what would that be?
Damn, dude. I don't even know. I don't even know why that triggered so much in me when that, like, what came up right away. Oh my God, man, I'm getting tears in my eyes just thinking about it. But what came to mind was "You're not broken," and I don't know why a parent would ever say that to a kid. But holy shit, I want to cry right now, man. You're not broken.
Yeah, Mitch. Mitch, you're not broken, man.
Yeah. Thank you, brother.
I feel the tears too. Wow.
That was potent. Yikes.
Yeah, I got to be careful who asks that question to. Okay. What closing message do you have for men?
Man, just tying into what I was saying earlier about the linear and circular or whatever bidirectional concept you want to think of, is just like this stuff it's not linear, man. And none of this is linear. Like, you're going to make progress in one area, and then you might think that you're falling back in another area, and then you're going to take the whole 2 steps forward, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, whatever. And it's hard for someone who's like, for us men who are on this healing path, to see ourselves stumble, to see ourselves make mistakes and fall back into old patterns. But we can't be too hard on ourselves for that, man. We got to calm that inner critic at those times, because that's the way of life. And yeah, like, other people see it. Like, I've had to look to you. I've had to look to other men to tell me, like, listen, man, like, the progress you have made is unbelievable. Because a lot of times when I'm stuck and I'm falling back a little bit, I'm like, look at this, years of work, and look at me in the same fucking place. But that's not true. That's a lie.
Yeah,
it's not the same place, not even close. So yeah,
man, this conversation was amazing. I'm honored that you would share so much. I respect who you are as a man, and I just want to say thanks for being here.
Likewise, brother. Love you, and thanks for having me. Honored.
You bet. Thanks for taking the time to be here today. I honestly hope you found something you can use in your life. And I hope you found some relief in knowing that you're not the only one with challenges. We can be very isolated as men. If you don't have support in your life, please reach out to someone. It's okay to need help. It doesn't mean that you're less of a man. In fact, it takes a courageous man to know when it's time to ask for guidance. Until next time, brother.